University has celebrated human inquiry. Our innovative curriculum is rooted in a distinctive blend of the liberal arts and sciences. Students and faculty hone creative curiosity by answering questions and questioning answers. In a supportive, interdisciplinary environment, they seek ways to build bridges and make connections. And with intentional meaning and purpose, they are driven by a sense of duty to themselves and to the world. Add in opportunities for undergraduate research, experiential learning, and nationally recognized pre-professional programs in business, communication, healthcare, education, and entrepreneurship, you get the full Trinity experience. The liberal arts plus. And while this experience may end with a Trinity degree, it's just the beginning of a lifetime of inspired exploration and perpetual discovery.
After a 5-game, 2-week road trip, Trinity Baseball is back on Tiger Network. The Trinity Tigers are finally back home in San Antonio, and they kick off an 8-game homestand here today as we have a doubleheader between the Dallas Crusaders and the number 22 Trinity Tigers. I'm Brian Yanselson, joined by Luke Terry. Luke, it's good to be back on the air.
Yeah, certainly right about that, Brian. Fantastic to be back here in San Antonio. Really now fully in the swing of things with this SCAC season campaign fully underway. Trinity opening SCAC play with that series sweep against Southwestern at home a couple weeks ago, getting another series victory last weekend at Centenary College, but good to be back here with the visiting Crusaders from the University of Dallas in town.
Absolutely. We'll take you through what the Tigers have done these past couple of weeks. But first, the starting lineup for the University of Dallas Crusaders. Leading off at shortstop, Michael Anderson. Batting second in right field, John Talley. Batting third in center field, Grady Birmingham. Batting cleanup at catcher, Cade Corbett. Batting fifth in left field, David Saldana. Batting sixth at second base, Tyler Darnell. And we'll look at the rest of the lineup as we look at first pitch here in San Antonio. That misses low for a ball. So the leadoff hitter, Michael Anderson, in the box. And the starting pitcher on the mound for the Tigers, Joseph Shavana. Gets that second pitch in there for a strike. Shavana making his first start of the season, but we've seen plenty from the sophomore from Laredo. He's come out of the bullpen mostly this season, but the Tiger coach is trusting him to get the start this afternoon.
Yeah, and I think that's understandable considering how often we saw him in this position last year as a freshman. Not a ton of starts for now the sophomore Tiger, but enough that warrants the start here today.
He impressed early on. The first week of the regular season was awarded SCAC Pitcher of the Week for a couple of good performances in opening weekend at Birmingham. And now he kickstarts this doubleheader. It is nice and steamy here in San Antonio, a reminder of what it can be like once baseball season gets into full swing. It is April 2nd, and it is 83 degrees with plenty of humidity out there. Shavana loops a breaking ball, grounded to second base. Colt Harris has it with no issue, and the first man is retired for the Tigers.
Yeah, and a really nice pitch from Shavana right there. Gotten that full count to the leadoff hitter, but didn't have any issues. No lack of confidence right there. Going with the breaking ball in the full count. Put that one in a nice spot, forcing the hitter to swing the bat. And nothing that Anderson could do with that one, sending that weak ground ball over to second base.
First pitch swinging is John Talley. He skies it out to left field, but it is caught in left center field by the center fielder Ezra Gore. So a quick 2 outs for Shavana, and a big one there with Talley, the power bat in this Crusader lineup.
Yeah, Brian, and I think this is something that we've seen out of Shavana in his appearances so far this season. He's done a nice job out of the bullpen, coming in and pitching to contact most of the time. It's exactly what he did. It's that first bat got deep, and then again in that second at bat gave the hitter something to swing at, and he does the same there. So after a long first at bat, Shavana comes back and in consecutive at bats needs only 2 pitches to retire the rest of this Crusader side.
Tigers will certainly take that. A 1-2-3 first inning for the starter Joseph Shavana. Tigers coming to bat after this break. Welcome back to Tiger Network. We'll get you through the starting lineup for the Tigers here as they get set to come to the plate for the first time. Leading off for the Tigers, you'll see him in a second, Colt Harris. Batting second and catching, Nicholas Lazera. Batting third in center field, Ezra Gore. Batting cleanup and at first base this afternoon, MJ Metz. Batting fifth at the hot corner, Jack Wisniewski. Batting sixth in left field, Brian Schaub. Batting seventh, getting the start in right field today, Jack Vonderhaar. DHing and batting eighth is Christian Holloway. And batting ninth at shortstop, Tanner Haney.
Yeah, Brian, and looking at that lineup, something familiar is that there's a lot of changes to it. It's what we've seen throughout the season for the Tigers to this point, but one thing that we agreed on in a little bit of a discussion before the game was the fact that it makes a lot of sense to have Colt Harris in that leadoff spot for Trinity here today.
Absolutely. Colt Harris earning SCAC Hitter of the Week honors a couple of days ago for his red-hot hitting that we got to see in that last homestand, especially against the Southwestern Pirates. And he's hitting above 380, so putting him at that top slot makes a ton of sense to get things going in the right direction. And he'll have to do it against the starting pitcher for the Crusaders, the lefty Cortez Saenz. He's a freshman from Dallas, so staying close to home.
Yeah, and a lot of appearances already on this still somewhat young season. He has 8 already on the year, but his last 3 have come as starts, including 2 in SCAC play. The first of those coming at or against Austin College, when he went 6 full innings, giving up 5 hits, 2 runs, but only one of those being earned. Got hit a little bit harder in the series against Schreiner University, so we'll have to see how he responds here on the road today.
First pitch to Harris, a strike on the outside corner, and Dallas will have its work cut out for him, keeping this Tiger offense quiet Trinity has scored more than 10 runs in 3 consecutive games now, and all 3 of those coming in victories. So the offense really waking up as of late. Tigers pulling out impressive victories, sweeping the doubleheader in Shreveport against Centenary, and then going on the road to get that midweek victory over Concordia up in Austin.
Yeah, and I think those victories, especially those in Shreveport, are that much more impressive when you take into mind the performance of the pitching staff from Centenary in that Friday opening game. Shut out the Tigers 10-0 in only 8 innings of action, limited these bats to 3 hits. So for the Tigers to turn around and in that doubleheader put up 23 runs and exit that series with a victory, or a series victory, excuse me, is really, really huge for this team in one of the bigger series in SCAC play that they'll have this season.
I think you make an excellent point, and your use of the word turnaround pretty apt for the situation. The coaches mentioning that it really could be the turning point of the season. You mentioned that 10-0 loss on Friday to a SCAC rival, and then you go down 8-4 in game 1 of that doubleheader. Things could have easily spiraled out of control, but the Tigers bounced back, found a way to win that game 1 of the doubleheader, and then were able to cruise through game 2. So what could have turned into an ugly weekend turned into a bright spot for the Tigers. I know that after that 10-0 loss, there was a players-only meeting after the game, just the player leaders stepping up, talking to one another about what's necessary to win some games and play the right way. And so far, so good.
Yeah, Brian, you mentioning that player-only meeting kind of reminds me of something that I talked about with the women's assistant basketball coach, Joe Shotland. In a mid-game interview, he mentioned the fact that that was a team that didn't lack in competitive spirit, that they wanted to go out there and win, and it made the job of the coaching staff that much easier. It allowed them to really focus on the ins and outs of the game. It helps when you have guys that are competitive, and to know that that's what's happening with this baseball team at this point in the season is really something to look forward to, and it certainly should be a bright spot. These are guys that have the skill level, they have the talent. I think that they have that competitive drive as well. So if they can focus in on opposing pitchers and really focus on the X's and O's of the game moving forward, then they should have a ton of success.
The focus is evident in this at-bat. Colt Harris fouling off a few good pitches, and the count remains full. Now 8 pitches thrown in this opening at-bat. Just what you want from your leadoff hitter. Let your lineup see a little bit of everything. And mentioning at the top, it is very humid out there, so the pitchers don't want to be out there for a long time. The 9th pitch of the at-bat, chopped over to third. Harris hustling down the line, and he's going to beat it because no throw is made over there by the third baseman. Just too tough of a play for Martinez over there. And Harris has a leadoff infield single.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. No play to be made over there on the left side of the infield. You saw Martinez charging in. Anderson able to glove that one cleanly after him, but by that time, absolutely too late. Harris with great speed moving down the line right there. We talked about the hot bat that he's been swinging recently, but certainly a ton of speed on the base paths, and already signs cognizant of that, checking over before pitching or giving that first delivery to Lazera right here.
Nick Lazera comes to the plate from the right side with the lefty on the mound. And he squares to bunt, gets it down. Going to be a tough throw for Signs, and he's not going to make it. The throw goes away from the first baseman, Kopp. And you could tell it was going to be a tough throw for the lefty. You see him going off the mound towards the third base side, so has to move on over to first and throw with Lazera going down the line.
Yeah, I think it's something that is heard a lot in the baseball world. Speed or pace and location of bunts coming off the bat, a lot more important than the speed of the base runner. Lazera does a great job making sure that he gets that bunt down, but puts it in the perfect location down that first base line. Signs on the mound right now as a left-handed left-handed pitcher going to fall more often than not towards that third base line. So Tiger hitters early on forcing the action, forcing this defense to make some tough plays in the infield. They haven't been able to do so, and now the Tigers are in great position to start this one.
As Rigor showing bunt as well on the first pitch. We'll see if that keeps up. That closed stance of his from the right side. He does show bunt again. Misses a little high, so 1-1 the count. As Rigor, the only Tiger with a higher batting average than Colt Harris. Those two battling near the top of that category.
Yeah, and over the last 10 or so games for each of these guys, it's really, really come alive in the batter's box. Colt Harris playing in 11 of the last 12 games, as Gore again doing a nice job of getting that one down, but that was first baseman right there crashing. Kopp coming up to make that play. See it on the replay right here. Into that screen. Much easier play for Kopp over there at first base than Signs coming off the mound. But again, Trinity now with runners at second and third base, and back to Gore and Harris and what they've done in the batter's box over the last 10 or so games. Gore coming into this one with a 9-game hit streak and a 400 batting average over that span. For Harris, in 11 of the last 12 Tiger games, he's swinging the hottest bat with an average of over 420 in that span.
And those two have been the catalyst over the last week or so. And it's made people not even realize that the average for the batter at the plate, MJ Metz, has gone down from that astronomical 420, 430 range to a still very respectable 347 as he swings past that fastball up and away. MJ going 0 for 4 against Concordia on Tuesday. Not very often you see an 0-4 in the hit column. But the senior from San Diego has an opportunity to get the Tigers on the board early here. He's behind in the count 0-2. Catcher calling for the pitch up and in. We'll see if Signs can get it there. It misses a little bit, goes on the outside part of the plate, but it still gets Metz to swing over the top of it. And a big strikeout for the Dallas pitcher. Now 2 outs in the bottom of the first, 2 runners still in scoring position.
Yeah, and you mentioned that catcher behind the plate, Corbett, wanting that pitch up and in, and for Signs, clearly missing with that one down and away, but a decent miss when you end up with a strikeout, and certainly an acceptable miss when it's not over the heart of the plate. That's when we've seen opposing pitchers get into trouble against this Tiger pitching staff. But all of a sudden here, Brian, now 2 outs for the Crusaders, and after the Tigers were threatening early on in the bottom of the first, Dallas with a chance to get out of this inning here.
Another bunt shown would be the third of the inning, but Wisniewski pulls back on it. Wisniewski, one of just 2 lefties in the lineup today against the left-hander on the mound. Him and Vonderhaar will be the only lefty-lefty matchups for the freshman on the mound. Breaking ball sweeps across the plate, but it lands outside for a ball. So the third baseman gets ahead of the count 2-0. An opportunity to drive in a couple and get things going in the right direction for the Tigers. Game 1 of this doubleheader. Tigers coming in at 13-7, ranked 22nd in the country according to D3 Baseball. Another breaking ball very similar to the last one, and a similar result. Misses outside, taking the count to 3-0.
Yeah, really nice job from Wisniewski in this at-bat right here. Really working Signs, forcing him to give him something to hit. A super senior in this Tiger lineup. You have to wonder if he'll have the green light right here, but so early on in this one, I have to imagine that's not the case, but doesn't matter anyway, as Wisniewski has walked on 4 pitches, and now the baton will be handed over to Brian Schaub, who will step into the batter's box with the bases loaded right here.
And Schaub stepping to the plate, but something to note, we'll have to see what's going on with that. Jack Wisniewski with batting gloves on. He typically goes with the no batting glove look. I wonder what's going on to cause those to come on. But for now, the man at the plate, Brian Schaub, bases loaded, 2 outs in the bottom of the first. First pitch to Schaub, a breaking ball for a strike.
Yeah, and a really nice first pitch delivery from Signs right there, trying to reestablish that release point. It's exactly what he does, but that's Brian Schaub in the box right there. You don't want to deliver that same pitch to him twice. That one hanging up over the middle of the plate, and we've seen what Schaub's been able to do with pitches like that all year long.
This one in the dirt to Schaub. But the transfer from Richmond really picking things up on the previous road trip for the Tigers. He went 4 for 10 and drove in 7 runs in that Centenary Series. And he launched a home run as well. It had been his longest drought, matching his longest drought at Trinity without a home run, 8 games. But he got rid of that streak. And certainly capable of adding on to that tally in a hurry. The 1-1 to Schaub misses low. Nowhere to put Brian Schaub here with the bases loaded. The first 2 runners getting on for the Tigers. An infield single from Colt Harris. Then Lazera trying to move him over on a bunt, reached on an error. And now Jack Wisniewski over at first with the walk. Schaub trying to drive some of his teammates home. The 2-1 from Signs on the way. And a little check swing pop-up in the infield. The second baseman there, Darnell, will retire the side. He's pumped up. And the Crusaders escape the first inning without a tally on the board. Dallas and Trinity will remain tied at 0 as we head to the top of the second here in San Antonio as we get set for a day full of baseball. Welcome back to Tiger Network. Trinity stranding, the bases loaded in the bottom of the first. So Joseph Chavana back out there to face Cade Corbett, the catcher for the Crusaders. Corbett chops that one foul. The catcher, the senior from Corona, California, hitting over 300 this year, been having a good season. Has driven in 5 runs along the way. Shavana tries to get the breaking ball on the inner half of the plate, but it misses a little bit. Count 1-2. And a swing and a miss by Corbett. 2-2 the count now. Count was 2-1, not 1-2. So now the count even And another swing and a miss on that ball in the dirt. Shavana burying the breaking ball to get Corbett swinging.
Yeah, and in that at-bat, just a really, really nice rhythm and pace from Shavana. On the behalf of the batter, Corbett really remaining in the box, not trying to disrupt Shavana on the mound at all, and ultimately hurt him in the end. Saw a couple of really nice breaking balls go the way of the Tigers' second year. He comes back in this at-bat, continuing to deal quickly, dropping another more looping breaking ball over the heart of the plate right there.
Yeah, and you can see how quickly Shavana is working, getting right back on the rubber, delivering the next pitch. He's quickly ahead of David Saldana, 1-2. And again, the breaking ball gets to the dirt right where he wants it, and he gets strike 3 swinging. So Shavana on a roll here early, 2 swift outs in the top of the second, and he's retired the first 5 Crusaders.
Yeah, Brian, and again in that at-bat, I just have to say Saldana not looking entirely comfortable in the box, but refusing to take time for himself. Shavana taking advantage of that. The feet looking a little bit happy for Saldana in that last at-bat. Shavana made him pay with that nice breaking ball in the dirt. Seen him bury a couple already in this inning for a couple of strikeouts.
Darnell tries to check his swing, but that breaking ball really getting these Crusaders to look fooled at the plate. Dallas coming off 2 losses to Shriner at home, in which they gave up 20 runs in both of those games. The most recent one losing 23-7 against the Mountaineers, and that game was 7-2 in the 8th inning before the Crusaders allowed 16 runs in the 8th and 9th inning to lose that one. This 2-1 pitch sent out to right field, and it'll land for a base hit, so Darnell able to become the first base runner of the afternoon for the Crusaders. Nice piece of hitting, just looking to go the other way, not trying to do too much. And it'll bring up Maverick Martinez to the plate.
And that last at-bat, one of the few times in this game that we've seen Shavana fall behind in the count. 2-1 count forced him to throw something over the plate, and you're exactly right, Brian. Darnell taking exactly what he was giving, something on the outside half of the plate, driving it the other way through that right side of the Tiger infield for the first base runner of the day for the Crusaders.
In this at-bat, though, already the curveball looking incredibly sharp, landing for a strike at the bottom of the zone. Shavana goes right back to it, runner on the move. The throw from his knees will be just a little late from Lazera, so Darnell takes second.
Yeah, a really, really nice throw. You mentioned it's coming from his knees, but also on a breaking ball, and he puts it exactly where he needs to. Really nice throw from Lazera right there, but certainly not an opportune pitch to throw on.
Not sure how Martinez didn't swing at that one. And Shavana goes right back to the same pitch, and again Martinez lays off. So a nice job by the sophomore to lay off a couple of tough pitches that have worked for Shavana in this inning already. 2 strikeouts. Darnell in scoring position at second off of the stolen base. Shavana trying to leave him right there. The fastball misses outside, trying to get it up to get Martinez to chase, but he remains in this count, which is now full. So Shavana had breezed through the first 5 hitters. Now having to work a little bit harder. That pitch missing barely on the outside corner. Everyone involved freezing a little bit. Shavana on the mound, Martinez in the box. You'll get a great look at it here. Lazera setting up outside. Shavana gets it there, but it does look like it missed a little low and away. Lazera trying to bring it back towards the corner. But Martinez fights all the way back from down 0-2 and draws a walk to bring up Griffin Cobb.
Yeah, but a really nice at-bat from Martinez right there. You have to imagine that that should continue for these Crusader hitters. You mentioned, Brian, that earlier in this inning, that curveball down in the dirt was providing dividends for Shavana. But certainly something that you want to see at this level of baseball is adjustments being made in the middle of innings, teammates communicating to each other. It didn't happen between at-bats 1 and 2, but now we've seen it. I'm sure that it's being discussed in that Crusader dugout right now.
Cobb able to make contact here, but it'll be in foul territory, and MJ Metz will pick up the third out of the inning. So Shavana does strand those runners at second and third. Got a little dicey in the top of the second, but the starter able to get out of it and bring his lineup back to the plate. So 0-0 remains the score as we head to the bottom of the second. It's good. After the Tigers strand the bases loaded in the bottom of the first, the Crusaders strand a couple of runners in scoring position themselves in the top of the second, but we remain scoreless here in San Antonio as Cortez Signs trots back out to the mound and will face the second lefty in this lineup, Jack Vonderhaar. Vonderhaar swings at the first pitch and sends it into the outfield. No problem for the center fielder Birmingham. So 1 pitch, 1 out for Signs.
Despite the fact that the Tigers did threaten in the bottom of the first after loading the bases, they come into the second inning here looking for their first hit of the game.
Yeah, it was a strange first inning. Little dribbler to third base that was ruled an error. We thought it might have been an infield single at the time, and then another error on the bunt, as well as a walk. But the Tigers unable to capitalize, like you said, not able to get the big hit. Earlier this week, got to have a conversation with University of Dallas head coach Eric Grafton, who's in his 4th year as a head coach for the Crusaders, and he was telling me a little bit about what he sees in the freshman on the mound that you get a good look at. The freshman from Dallas misses high there with that delivery, but he's a true freshman, and that's something you'll see up and down this Dallas roster. Of the 20 starts that they've had on the mound, 15 of them have come from freshmen. And Signs 1-1 this year with that 8.69 ERA, but someone that the Crusaders are excited about and hoping can develop as the year continues. Here he gets Holloway to sky it out to center field. Again, Birmingham right under for the second out, so 2 fly ball outs for Signs.
Yeah, and that one left up right over the middle of the plate, but Holloway not able to do anything with that one. These Tiger hitters over the last couple of weeks have done a really nice job with baseballs and pitches at the bottom half of the zone, doing a nice job of hitting line drives to all parts of the field. But Signs already in this one, we've seen him elevate the baseball a little bit, or at least attempt to. We go back to that first inning when we saw Corbett signaling for his first-year pitcher to give him the delivery high.
Second pitch to Tanner Haney, misses high and away. Coach Grafton saying that the true freshman is a very competitive pitcher and has lots of good stuff, good movement, and that he really only gets into trouble when he starts losing command. He's at his best when he's attacking and not afraid to go right at hitters, so we've seen that in the second inning. But a couple in a row miss way up out of the zone. And it's Tanner Haney at the plate. Haney didn't play in that Centenary series. Also didn't play against Concordia, but he's back in the lineup at shortstop. We saw a lot of him, Luke, in that last homestand against Southwestern.
Yeah, we talked a lot about his a little bit of misfortune to start this year as he sends that one out to right center field. That's no issue for Tally out there. We've seen a lot of swings like that from Haney, putting good contact on the baseball, finding the barrel more often than not, but very frequently this year he's sent it right to defenders all around the field.
But a successful inning for the pitcher Signs. He gets 3 lazy fly balls out of the bottom half of the Tiger lineup. So we head to the top of the third. Score remains tied at 0 in San Antonio. Number 9 hitter steps in and looks at a first pitch breaking ball for a strike. Andrew Gaspar. Gaspar fouls that one the other way. Like so many of his teammates, a freshman. Andrew from Anaheim, California. He sends this one way up in the Texas sky. The shortstop Haney able to collect it for the out. We've seen a lot of fly balls early on here, Luke.
Yeah, a ton. And Brian, you mentioned a little bit earlier that it's warm here in San Antonio, so odds are that we're going to see the baseball leave the yard at least a couple of times in this series. But these hitters not having the greatest of approaches early on in this one. We've seen hitters on both sides really get under the baseball. We've seen a real lack of line drives. So certainly something that's going to need to change, certainly something that I'd imagine that this Tiger coaching staff isn't happy with to begin this game.
Anderson trying to get something going, though, as he gets to the plate for the second time this afternoon. The top of the order will face Shavana now for the second time. Anderson, it is, grounded to second. His first time up. Anderson going 1 for 4 in his last game against Schreiner. Looks at a strike there to take the count to 1-2.
Nice pitch from Shavana right there after Anderson tried to lay that one down. Going with the breaking ball, much more difficult to get on the ground, put the barrel on, and really paid off for Shavana right there as he comes back in that 1-2 count, forcing Anderson to swing the bat and getting the strikeout here for the second out of the top of the third.
And a great pitch there. We've seen the curveball repeatedly through the first time in the order, but it looked like the changeup that got Anderson to swing over it. So Shavana may be introducing something as he sees these Crusaders for a second time. And now attacks Talley with the first pitch fastball. So you never know what's coming from this sophomore. And he blows another fastball past Talley.
I think that changeup really going to be useful for Shavana today. And that second inning saw Martinez able to reach base on that walk after he laid off of so many of those really nice curveballs. Shavana really going to need that third pitch in at-bats and situations like that. Something that allows him to go in on the hands of these right-handed hitters of the Crusader lineup. There's a lot of them in there today. 8 out of the 9 hitters for the University of Dallas standing in on the right side of the plate from our point of view.
And you get a great look at Shavana there. All 6'1", 170 of him. Tries to go with the curveball in the dirt. But you also get a good look at his throwing motion. Was curious about it earlier this year. There's a lot going on, a lot of movement with it. And he says he looks to 2 now New York Mets for inspiration. A little bit of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. Talley fouls that one towards the Tiger dugout. But Shavana, especially that big leg kick you see of his and bringing the glove up with it, says he mixes a little bit of those two pitchers. Has just liked what he's seen, and I don't think there's many pitchers that you could say are better inspiration than deGrom and Scherzer.
Certainly not. And has a very similar frame and body type to deGrom, but really, really aggressive in the way he throws the baseball. A lot of movement. Same thing happening down that left field line. Tigers laying out down there.
Athleticism all over the field here in San Antonio. And Tanner Haney gets his second pop-up of the inning. So the pop-ups and fly balls continue early on in Game 1. We'll have to bring you another look of that Superman dive out there in the bullpen. But for now, we'll take a break and be back on Tiger Network. Oh, and look, here it is, just in time. Full dive. Great job out there. We'll be right back on Tiger Network. So we're going to show you one more time. Luke, break this dive down for us.
Well, it looks like Cedric Bowman out there coming off the bench. Really nice full extension, parallel to the ground, but I'm not entirely sure he's playing the baseball right there. Seems to oversell it a little bit. Certainly the showman on that dive right there, but I think bare minimum, you can say he does a nice job knocking the baseball down, making sure it doesn't get all the way into the corner. Comes up with it smoothly, nice clean toss to the dugout. So all around a really, really solid play out there. Would like to see him use his hands a little bit more, but certainly can't be upset with the use of the body right there to make sure that that one doesn't keep rolling.
That's right. You always hear, get a body on it out there, and he certainly did that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really all you can ask for. certainly a growing learning experience. A lot of action, hopefully, that we'll see from that bullpen as this one continues along. Certainly nice to see them stay involved in this game. Hopefully give some inspiration to the Tigers as they step back into the batter's box, looking to really get something going here in the bottom of the third.
Yeah, and we'll see if it's the second time through the order that the Tigers are able to now be familiar with the starter signs and get something going, as you said. But Harris swinging over that first pitch. 0-1 the count.
Yeah, again, Brian, something that I noticed in the last half inning with Signs on the mound, he appears to be leading with that breaking ball. Looks to be a little bit of a slider, but no matter what, has a tiny bit of movement. I think that's certainly something that could be throwing off the Tiger hitters right here.
What else is new here? A fly ball out to center field. Grady Birmingham is going to get tired of ranging over. Already several putouts for the center fielder.
Yeah, it's that same thing right there. Not a ton of movement, but not a flat fastball either. And more often than not, we've seen the Tigers underneath the baseball. Certainly a difficult task to swing through it and create line drives, but if you're this coaching staff and you're the Tigers in the order, you want to give yourself a little bit of a better opportunity to find your way onto base. And right now, the adjustment that needs to be made is simply getting on top of the baseball.
The pop-ups continue, though, and not sure he's going to be able to find it, and he won't. Lazera trying to take second, but a heads-up throw will retire him. Crazy baseball going on in this early start. A pop fly right up to the mound. The pitcher Signs can't see it. The third baseman had no idea where it was either. You can see him step way out of the box. Signs nearly coming up with it, but the first baseman Kopp saving the day and gunning down Lazera trying to take second. So after all that, 2 outs, nobody on in the bottom of the third.
Yeah, and you were certainly right. Martinez in that last shot on the replay, no idea where that one was in the infield, but he did a really nice job of making that known, making that evident. The other infielders for the Crusaders, whether that's Kopp or Anderson over there at shortstop, need to do a better job of getting to that position, making sure that you're the one fielding the baseball on the infield rather than your pitcher. Certainly a tough job to come off the mound and field your position, whether that's on bunts, but especially on those balls up in the air.
As Rigor lines it out to right field, thought that might be the first hit of the afternoon for the Tigers, but it will not, as Talley able to get there in time because that fly ball from Lazera is called a fielding error. And then the out retired at second base. So 3 errors by Dallas so far in this one, but no hits for the Tigers. So we remain scoreless as we head to the top of the 4th on Tiger Network. What you'll see at the ballpark, and already an interesting start to this one. No hits on the board for Trinity, but 3 errors on the other side for Dallas, so the base runners have been there, but not many hard hit balls. Birmingham does line it quite hard, but the left fielder right there for the Tigers, Brian Schaub. So if anything, the quick out's really starting to pile up on both sides.
And you see Lazera set up on the outside part of the plate for that pitch. That one leaking back over the middle to Birmingham, though. Does a nice job of getting his hands through, keeping the barrel on the inside part of the plate. But unfortunately for him, sent that one right to Brian Schaub in left field, similar to the last out of the bottom of the inning when Ezra Gore sent one out to right field.
Swing and a miss by Corbett. Count 1-2. The catcher in his crouch stands at the plate. Lazera setting up in. Shavana gets it there. A little chopper to the left side. Haney charging. And the throw off to the left of first. Mets unable to apply the tag. And you hear the Dallas dugout cheering on the base runner. A tough play for the shortstop. He had to come a long way and make a good throw. But even the 6'5" frame of Mets unable to get that tag on.
Yeah, but a good job by Mets over there at first base, ensuring that he comes off, secures the grab. We've seen a couple times already on the year when he opts to do that and is still able to swing the glove around to tag the runner out. But as you mentioned, a really tough play for Haney over there at shortstop. It looked like at the beginning of that replay Wisniewski playing at third base. Might have stumbled a little bit. Could have been an easier play for him, but in the end would have been close no matter who was coming up with that throw.
That one misses high and in. Taking a look at the box score, it looks like a change has been made, so the Tigers do have their first hit of the afternoon. That last error on the pop-up changed to a base hit. Was a tough play for the pitcher and really everyone in the infield who failed to see the ball in this bright sky. Saldana with an aggressive swing there, fouling it straight back into the fence. The Crusaders coming into today with a record of 9-11. They're 3-3 in conference play, and they come in fourth place of the SCAC. And for those who follow this conference, know that the top 4 teams in the conference make the tournament at the end of the year. Dallas falling just short of that last year, coming in 5th, which was their highest finish ever in the conference. So they've never been able to make that postseason tournament, but Coach Grafton saying they do not shy away from that conversation at all. They are firmly aware of how close they are in that fifth spot last year, and they talk about it all the time of what it will take to get into that top 4. It's his goal as head coach ever since he came over from the University of Texas at Tyler, where he spent 6 years as the assistant. So now his 4th year at Dallas and trying to take the Crusaders to the postseason. Shavana here checking a couple of times on the runner. But Luke, as we look around SCAC play early on this season, it looks like that 4th spot might be up for grabs.
Yeah, looking at the standings, one of the biggest things that jumps out to you, and I think it certainly jumps out to the two of us, is the fact that Southwestern is down there towards the bottom of the standings, 1-6 record, but I think that largely stems from 2 really tough series in a row to open the season. Obviously, Trinity and Southwestern squaring off here to begin SCAC play, but the Pirates had to turn around. They got TLU, who were picked to finish atop the SCAC with Trinity, tied in first place votes this year, so a really tough slate for the Pirates to open the season. You'd expect them to turn it around moving forward, but certainly opens the door somewhat for another team that, if they get hot and focus on the standings, certainly could push for that 4th spot at the end of the year.
I think what it does more than anything is just mentally for the other teams in the conference to look at that 0-6, now 1-6 record of Southwestern is really say, if we rattle off a couple of wins and are able to beat Southwestern when they play them, then that spot could be right there for them to take.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. But it's games and series like this against Trinity, Texas Lutheran, Centenary, and those games against Southwestern that will be especially important. Really big if you can take just one game against one of these top 3 teams that we expect to see certainly be in that championship series at the end of the year. But that also means you have to take care of business against teams in the middle and bottom of the standings moving forward.
Certainly will be tough for Dallas, but they are up for the challenge and they are hanging around early. Shavana able to get a strikeout and a fly ball to right to get out of this 4th inning. We head to the bottom of the 4th, tied at 0 on Tiger Network. A hit on the board now thanks to the scoring change. That called that Lazera pop-up a single and then said that Lazera was thrown out at second instead of an error. But other than that technicality, not much doing for this Tiger lineup. Very few hard hit balls through the first time as they face Cortez Saenz, who's done a good job quieting this lineup down. And he attacks Metz with the first pitch strike.
And continuing to come at these Tiger hitters with that same off-speed breaking ball delivery, whatever that might be. Looks like it could be a little bit of a slider or cutter, but he's done a really nice job with it so far to get ahead in counts, but he's left it over the middle of the plate a lot. And for these Tiger hitters, it just seems like an adjustment is looming. Not sure when it's going to come, but have to feel confident that it will. Seen them underneath the baseball, skying it to the outfield a ton today, but we've already seen quite frequently for both sides what can happen when you just put the ball on the ground and force the defense in the infield to try and make some plays.
Breaking ball high to Metz, so the infielder gets ahead. For Trinity, this is an offense that averages over 8 runs a game. That ranks in the top 100 across Division III. But over the past few games, talked about how they've had 10 or more runs in the past 3 during this 3-game winning streak. So you know the offense is there, but the Tigers have been unable to tap into it. Right there, a diving attempt by the first baseman, Kopp, comes up just short. But a good effort there from the first baseman. See Metz just jammed there on the pitch inside, and Kopp coming from way out of your screen. There he is. And the ball just bouncing off his glove. Everybody back to their spots. Signs on the mound. Mets coming back from hustling it out to first. And Kopp recovering over there at his position. And Mets goes down swinging for the second time today. Signs starts the fourth with a strikeout.
Yeah, a really nice pitch from Signs right there. That previous offering in on the hands of Mets, and Signs coming back, changing location with that one down in the zone. Not something that we've seen out of him a ton today, but for the second time against Mets, got the big right-hander to swing over the top of it. So Signs looking really strong so far in this one for the University of Dallas, keeping these Tiger bats in check.
For Signs, this is his 9th appearance this year, but only his 4th start. He had been coming out of the bullpen at the beginning of this 2022 season, but Coach Grafton saying he has impressed in his outings, he's impressed at practice, and an arm they believe can get things done to start things off on the mound. And he has certainly delivered so far today. Gets another weak ground ball. This time Wisniewski trying to beat it out, but the throw is in time. Kopp getting back to the bag and fielding the ground ball from Darnell. So 2 batters, 2 outs in the bottom of the 4th, and it'll bring up Brian Schaub to try to make something happen with 2 outs in the inning.
Yeah, but a close play there at first base, and I think that's the result of a ball put in play hard on the ground from Wisniewski right there. For Schaub, we've seen a lot of line drives on the season. In his first at-bat of the game, just a check swing that sent a lofty, weakly hit fly ball. Hard to call it a fly ball even, Brian, over there to second base for the last out of that inning, but certainly someone that swings a really, really hot bat and someone that we see tend to hit line drives and keep the ball low more often than not.
And Schaub, someone Tiger fans have loved getting to know and getting to see hit home runs left and right. Led the team with 14 home runs last year, already has 3 this year. Schaub transferring from the University of Richmond and coming with his teammate Garrett Ayler as he's hit by this pitch. So he'll trot on over to first, but put a little sneak peek this week on my Twitter of an interview I did with Brian Schaub and Garrett Ayler. Promised that we would show the full segment during this doubleheader, and we absolutely will. So stay tuned. We will let you know when we plan to air that segment. It's a great conversation to find out how the Spiders became Tigers. And Tiger fans certainly glad that they did. And something Tiger fans have seen a lot of. Schaub reaching base via the walk or the hit by pitch, as we could see on that last one. He's just able to reach base by any means necessary. And he brings up the lefty Vonderhaar to the plate, trying to keep this little 2-out rally going.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've seen the Tigers really take advantage of, is putting runners on and bringing them all the way around to score when they get to that 2-out scenario. They've been really, really nice in situations like these. Situational hitting has really been a strong suit in their last few games, and I think it's something that they'll need to be taking advantage of here today, as this one looks early on like it could be a close game.
Another throw, this one a little bit closer, but Schaub able to dive in there as you hear the Trinity Tower chime at the 2 o'clock hour. That one a strike. Now I'm not sure about you, Luke, but it took me a little bit to be on this campus to realize that if you just listen to the tower closely enough, it actually tells you the time.
Yeah, I've heard some people cue into that one, Brian, but I don't know if I've ever actually listened closely enough to figure out what the trick to it is.
Well, apparently, it chimes at every quarter hour. So, let's say 2:15, 2:30, 2:45. And then at the top of the hour, it rings 4 times. 4 different times with the little rhythm that it has, and then it rings the amount of times at the time it is. So it would be 3 times at 3 o'clock. Very intuitive once you get to it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we'll still be on the broadcast when that 3 o'clock hour rolls around, so we'll certainly have to key into that and make sure that whoever's in charge of the tower is doing things right now.
I think that's something the control room takes care of. They seem to do everything else on this broadcast, so I think they run up, chime the tower, and then run back down to get you these great angles.
That certainly would explain the scooter that we see being driven around campus from time to time.
A couple of pitches here get past the catcher Corbett. And this inning that started slowly for the Tigers, just a couple of weak outs, now an opportunity. Maybe the Crusaders distracted by the bell tower a little bit. But Schaub getting over from first to third on a couple of wild pitches, and Vonderhaar earning his trip to first, and it'll bring a visit to the mound as Saenz has really been in control through this one, but now we'll get a visit from the catcher Corbett. As Christian Holloway will step to the plate, and it'll become a full mound visit from the infield.
And with as well as Saenz has thrown early on in this one, have to imagine that it's nothing more than a discussion taking place on the mound right here. Obviously a first and third situation, so maybe a little bit of advice from Coach right here in regards to what to do and how to handle the runners on base. We saw in that series against Southwestern a couple of weekends ago, Brian, that Pirates were throwing through, and the Tigers were able to take advantage of that a couple of times to score some runs in that series. So in a 0-0 ball game here, certainly don't want to give up a run in that type of situation with Schaub over there at third base. Plenty of speed, and will have enough to get home in any situation in which Dallas throws over to second base, you'd have to imagine.
And it was a lengthy conversation, so much so that the home plate umpire had to come out and break things up. But that was the head coach, Eric Grafton, coming out, having a discussion with his infield and with his pitcher. Grafton playing at Hendrix College, so he told me he faced Trinity a whole bunch of times when they were in the SCAC together. So he knows a little bit about what it takes to play Trinity and beat Trinity. As the first pitch after the visit fades away to Christian Holloway. One thing Grafton mentions about Trinity that he can always count on, they will always be aggressive on the bases. So I think what you're observing about how Southwestern had trouble with that, with these runners on first and third, certainly something to keep an eye on as Vonderhaar leads off of first. Saenz keeping a close eye on him, goes to the plate and misses in the dirt. So Holloway up 2-0. Metz and Wisniewski were retired. With no one on and 2 outs, Schaub hit by the pitch. Vonderhaar earning the walk, and it leaves the Tigers with a chance to put something on the board for the first time. The catcher Corbett wants it high, and Holloway grounds it foul. Nice pickup by third base coach Andrew Waters. The at-bat will continue at 2-1.
Yeah, and a nice pitch from Saenz right there, turning around and delivering that one over the heart of the plate after we saw a couple down in the zone. Both of those over the plate, just a little bit low. Holloway with a nice approach in that last offering, though, trying to get on top of the baseball just a little early on that one, pulling it foul.
Holloway lays off of another ball, so he is in command here, 3-1. Looking for his pitch to hit. Still just one base hit on the afternoon for Trinity, and it came on that pop-up dropped by the pitcher. So we'll see if Holloway can deliver. He crushes this one the other way. The right fielder going back, and he's gonna look at that one go. Christian Holloway blasts a 3-run homer to right field, and that's the blast the Tigers needed. as they jump in front now, 3-0 over Dallas.
Yeah, and just a really, really impressive swing from Holloway right there. Getting ahead in the count 3-1. Didn't try and get too big with that swing. Did a really nice job. Hopefully we'll be able to see it on the replay of this one, of keeping that front shoulder tucked in. See it right here. That pitch a little bit higher in the zone than the catcher behind the plate. Corbett wanted it, but nonetheless, Holloway doing a really nice job of staying through it for the first time in this one. See a Tiger at the plate doing a nice job ensuring that they don't get underneath the baseball. And when you see a pitch elevated just a little bit in the zone, you stay behind it. Those are the types of results you're going to get. And that one has the Tigers up 3-0 in the bottom of the fourth.
And just like that, a whole new feel to the game. It had been a tough beginning for the Tigers, really struggling to get people on and people in. But a couple of tough at-bats for Schaub and Vonderhaar that resulted in base runners, and then Holloway able to come through. And they're up 3-0, but it feels like they're firmly ahead with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the way that Shavana has thrown for the Tigers on the mound is really playing into the feel of this game right now. He's shut down this Crusader offense. They, on the other side of things, only have 2 hits so far. So if the Tigers can continue that on the mound and the defense can continue to play well in the field, you have to like the chances here as this one continues.
Signs does do a nice job of bouncing back from the home run to keep things there at 3-0 by striking out Haney. But 3 runs on the board in a hurry off the bat of Christian Holloway. The 3-run home run keeps the Tigers ahead of Dallas as we head to the top of the 5th on Tiger Network. Shavana has to be happy with his fellow sophomore. Christian Holloway delivering the 3-run home run to give the pitcher now a 3-0 lead to work with. And we'll see if he's able to get that shutdown inning we talk about seemingly every game. And Shavana quickly does get ahead 0-2. So a good start to try to do just that, keep Dallas off the board as soon as your team gave you some support. That one misses low and in the dirt.
Yeah, and more often than not, Brian, I think that Shavana and the role that we've seen him in this year coming out of the bullpen has pitched really well when he's been given these big, large leads. Does a nice job. I think he's going to just continue doing a nice job working with the pace that he has on the mound so far. He's really gotten into a nice rhythm. That's continued here all the way into the 5th inning. A couple of nice breaking balls to Martinez right there. Has the count even now at 2-2. Excuse me, moved to full at 3-2, but have to imagine that as this one continues, he'll continue to operate right there around the zone and force these Crusader hitters to try and swing the bat and barrel the baseball.
That last breaking ball staying up in the zone a little bit more than Shavana probably liked. So this time he gets it on the outside corner and plenty low to get Martinez to swing past it. So a good correction mid at bat, and Shavana continues to roll, make that 5 strikeouts on the afternoon.
Yeah, really, really nice pitch from Shavana right there. You mentioned the fact that that previous breaking ball hung up just a little bit in the zone, but that one significantly tighter. does a nice job of going away with it and starting it in a really nice spot over the heart of the plate. Talked extensively about Martinez and his first at-bat of the day, how he was able to lay off of that breaking ball down and away. But Shavana, with a really great delivery right there, able to catch just enough of the corner of the strike zone.
And as you described that pitch that struck out Martinez, you mentioned the word tight, and I think that's the perfect way to describe the difference between Shavana's breaking balls is that the strikeout looked to be on the slider that time versus the big looping curveball that we've seen in the dirt several times. So you have the slider and the curveball, and then you've also seen the changeup getting these Crusaders to swing past it. So a lot of mix of pitches for Shavana, and it's just working to perfection. Lazera able to jump out in front of the curveball, and it's strikeout number 6 for Shavana.
And we'll see the replay of that last pitch right here. Lazera doing a really nice job of setting a really wide base with his feet. Allows him to get his chest on top of that one and kill it straight into the dirt in front of him. Talked about this young catching rotation that we've seen a lot this year. Tyler Pettit, pretty typically and consistently the catcher behind the plate for the Tigers last year, but we've seen a few of younger guys, and Lazera has been really promising, and I think that we can say that he's improved as the season's gone along, and that was a really nice demonstration of it in that last at-bat.
And when you have a guy on the mound like Shavana that throws so much in the dirt, crucial to have a catcher that you can trust to block it. And right on cue in the dirt again and blocked by Lazera again. So 3 batters, 3 strikeouts, and they are all impressive from Shavana. He is dealing here in San Antonio, keeping the Tigers ahead 3-0 and getting up to 7 strikeouts, still no runs allowed, and just a couple of hits on the board. So we are halfway home through game 1 of this doubleheader. Tigers feeling good about this one. You had a great look there at the Tiger dugout on this beautiful afternoon in San Antonio, Texas. And the Tigers will be spending a lot more time at home, kicking off an 8-game homestand today. 8 home games over the next 11 days, and we couldn't be happier that we will bring you all of those games here on Tiger Network. First pitch of this inning, a check swing by Colt Harris. Field umpire says he did not go around, so he gets ahead 1-0. Cortez Saenz remains out there on the mound. despite giving up that 3-run home run in the last inning.
I mean, it is important to note that that's one swing that accounts for all 3 runs on the board for the Tigers. In addition to that, it did come with 2 outs already on the board for the Crusaders. So not much separating a tie ball game in this one in the bottom of the 5th. That 3-0 scoreline, not as indicative of how tight this one has been.
And you saw signs go right after Haney after the home run. Struck out the shortstop, so didn't seem too rattled. Did look a little frustrated, of course, to work so hard and give up that home run. But we'll see how he's able to recover in the next half inning. He's behind on Harris, and he ends up hitting him. Would have been ball 4 anyway. So Harris takes a little painful walk over to first, taking that one, but earning the base runner and gets things going for the middle of the Tiger lineup now. Lazera, Gore, and Metz to follow.
It's a second hit by pitch that we've seen in now consecutive innings. So perhaps a little indicative of where Signs is in this one. That's a 3rd hit by pitch right there. Lazera squaring around to bunt, but that one catching him on what looked to be his back foot. Now the Tigers have runners on 1st and 2nd. You have to wonder how the conditions here in San Antonio are beginning to play a part in this one. You mentioned earlier on in the game that it's much warmer out here in San Antonio than we've been used to, certainly much warmer than it was the last time that this team played games here at Trinity Baseball Stadium.
And you start to sense that this is an opportunity for this Trinity team to really break things open. After a slow start to the game, finally breaking through for those 3 runs in the 4th, and now a big swing by Ezra Gore. The left fielder will take a look, but he has no shot. Make that 2 3-run home runs for the Tigers. This one off the bat of Ezra Gore. And the lead doubled just like that, and the Tigers do break it open in the 5th.
Yeah, Brian, we talked a little bit in between innings about Christian Holloway's home run to right field and how I wondered a little bit off the bat if it was going to sneak over the right field wall, but I think we'd agree that for both of us, that one was an absolute no-doubter. You'll see on the replay right here, left over the heart of the zone. Ezra Gore puts a nice swing into it. Got a lot of barrel on the baseball, and a nice warm day here in San Antonio when we've already seen the ball fly relatively far. That one had no problem getting out of the ballpark.
Pitching for Dallas, number 18, Jamie Wallace.
Tough time for Signs, who had started so well this afternoon, and then a couple of swings that bring home 6 runs on a couple of 3-run shots from Gore and Holloway force the freshman out of the game. Coach Grafton comes out to make the pitching move, and we'll take a quick break on Tiger Network with the Tigers up 6-0.
First baseman, number 25.
We hope you didn't take a quick break in this one. It was 0-0 in the bottom of the fourth. But in the blink of an eye, the Tigers have jumped all over the Crusaders. And they find themselves up 6-0 with a new pitcher on the mound for Dallas in the form of Jamie Wallace, the senior from Crockett, Texas. Won't be a change of what the batters see in terms of still seeing a lefty on the mound. So don't expect to see a ton of changes in the lineup, as we've sometimes seen when a righty or lefty starts the game and then the opposite side comes in from the bullpen. But we'll see if Wallace can slow things down a little bit. The Tigers finally getting a hold of signs. Seems to be a pattern here for Tiger baseball. Sometimes they don't get off to the quickest starts, but you just know that offense is waiting. And you had a feeling it wouldn't be long before the runs were on the board. Haven't always seen them in the forms of 3-run homers, but we've seen these big rallies and crooked numbers all the time.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. More often than not, it's just that minor adjustment that needs to be made. We've seen it earlier in this year, time and time again, that's been the case. Very infrequently has this entire order batting lineup been completely shut down. Can't really think of more than one instance when that's been the case. Time and time again, it's been that one adjustment that needed to be made, and this one, it was finding a way to really get behind the baseball and drive through it rather than those consistent bats that were just getting that bottom third of the baseball. Now a couple of swings that found the middle third of it, all of a sudden have the Tigers ahead 6-0.
Wisniewski shows bunt on the first pitch from Wallace, but he pulls it back as that one's way outside. Metz drawing the walk. He's over there at first. Definitely a candidate to take off, has a big lead. And Wallace checking on him over there. Metz with 8 stolen bases on the year. Has been caught just 3 times. And we've seen the Tigers willing to bunt already several times in this one, so wouldn't be surprised to see them try to steal as well. Wisniewski showing that bunt once again, but pulls it back again as the count in his favor, 2-0.
He steps back into the box. Nice camera angle right there, showing us those batting gloves that you mentioned earlier on in this one. Certainly a discussion that will need to be had with Jack in between games, Brian. Get a little bit of insight as to what sparked the change, because I think you're absolutely right about the fact that I think we could both confidently say this is the first time in 2 years that we've seen batting gloves on Wisniewski's hands.
Definitely, and it's something he's very proud of, to not wear batting gloves, so I wonder what resulted in this decision. Maybe the humidity out there, wanting to just get a firmer grip on the bat. Might be one explanation, but there's the perfect angle, a good close-up of Wisniewski. Wisniewski, the 5th-year senior from right here in San Antonio. Antonian College Prep. Runner is off. Wisniewski hits it somehow right to the shortstop, who had vacated his position but was able to reach back and get the ground ball. He gets Wisniewski out at first. He wasn't able to step on the bag, though, so the runner does move over. You see Metz getting there just before he was able to step on the bag. So the hit and run doesn't go to perfection, but it still works out in that it moves the runner over, and Schaub will have the opportunity to bring him home.
Yeah, just not the most opportune pitch to have the hit and run on right there. That one staying up in the zone and on that outside part of the plate away from Wisniewski. He did a really nice job to get a lot of the barrel onto the baseball. But as you mentioned, unfortunately hit it right at the shortstop that had vacated his position, moving over towards second base.
Pitch to Schaub, misses high, and I promise you the players don't have an in-game idea of how their season stats are going, but it's fun to think about the fact that they might have a little competition going. So Ezra Gore with that 3-run home run, taking the lead in RBIs. So he has 22 on the year. Schaub had 21 coming into today, had the team lead. So we'll see if Schaub tries to get that lead back. Looks at a strike on the outside part there.
In addition to that, Schaub not only loses the RBI lead, but now they're tied atop that home run lead. So a couple of categories statistically that I'm sure Schaub, after this game, you should remind him of those, Brian. Make sure that he's cognizant of it, even if he isn't in the middle of this at-bat.
As you'll see in a little bit, maybe they just need to eat a little bit more rice out of the rice cooker that Brian Schaub and Garrett Ayler are so fond of. If you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about, I promise you'll get to see as we show several videos of my interview with Schaub and Ayler. Right here, Schaub skies this one way up to left center, but Birmingham has plenty of room for that one. Metz will have to stay at second, and Schaub is retired. No, we've mentioned that video a couple of times, but got to keep teasing it because there's 3 games in this series, so got to keep people on their toes. Never know when it's going to come.
Absolutely, but I think you shared the perfect bit of information. I mean, alluding to the rice cooker is certainly something that me, personally, as a college student, is going to invite me back. I want to know what they have to say about the rice cooker. A splendid invention. Incredibly, incredibly useful, convenient, and I'm sure as baseball players, they feel the exact same way.
Oh, they love it. They certainly love their rice cooker. First pitch here to Vonderhaar lands for a strike. Wallace coming in after the home run from Ezra Gore. Trying to keep things at a reasonable distance for his lineup. Misses low and away to Vonderhaar. Vonderhaar gets a good piece of that one, and it drops into left field for a base hit. Metz will come around to score, and Vonderhaar has the RBI single to push this one out to 7-0.
Yeah, and a really nice swing from Vonderhaar right there. Great piece of hitting. Situation in which we've seen these Tiger hitters drive the baseball right at defenders in the outfield. He does a nice job of depositing that one right over the head of Anderson over there at shortstop. With 2 outs here in the inning, and Metz going on contact, absolutely no question that he would come around to score right there, pushing the lead to 7 runs here in the bottom of the 5th.
And now it's the man that got it all started back in the 4th, Christian Holloway, driving it over the right field fence, going the opposite way. He drove in 3 runs with that single swing, and it really changed the mood of this one. The pitchers had been dominating Signs and Shavana, but Holloway able to take advantage and rattle Signs a little bit. Now gets ahead of the count 2-0. Holloway, someone who works remarkably hard, constantly in the cage working on his craft when he's not studying biology. And the other day, in a perfect example of what life as a student athlete is here at Trinity, I was with my roommate leaving the library, and it was about 10:30 at night, and I see the lights at the baseball field still on. And I tell my roommate, I wonder who is out there. Practice ended about 3 hours ago. It was Christian Holloway out there with his dad, taking BP on the field with no one else there. So 2.5, 3 hours after practice had ended, campus was quiet, no one was around, everyone had picked up, and Christian was out there with his dad working on his swing. So great to see it pay off a little bit here with the 3-run shot, and know that he's been working on it throughout this season and throughout his career.
Yeah, really incredible story, Brian, that really highlights what the schedule looks like for these guys as student athletes, having to be out here those late hours at night that are really necessary if you want to play a role on this team the way that Christian Holloway does. Someone that we've seen in the lineup really very consistently, and certainly those hours and those repetitions late at night paying dividends here in this one.
And what was really funny about the progression of that situation was you leave the library, which is way on upper campus here at Trinity, and you see the lights, and you start to wonder, oh, is someone there? And then you get a little bit closer, and we heard the crack of the bat just a little bit. And then it gets closer and closer. You're like, okay, someone is definitely there. Who could it be? And we couldn't tell from far. We had to get all the way up to the field, but it was, in fact, Christian. Just one of many examples of the effort that these Tigers put out there, and not just the baseball team, really, of course, across the department here. We've been so lucky to cover sports from the fall, starting with volleyball and soccer and football, and taking us all the way here to the spring with baseball and softball, tennis having some great matchups at home recently. And so the amount of time and effort that these players and students, because remember, they are students first and foremost, what they put into it is just so admirable.
Yeah, it's been such an honor and a privilege to call such successful seasons on top of that. Very certainly a storied baseball program that we have the honor of calling games for here today, but you mentioned those other teams, a football team that certainly wasn't very far from a deep run in the NCAA postseason, a couple of basketball teams that made the tournament themselves, a women's team that made it all the way to the Elite Eight. Tons and tons of talent across the campus in every sport here at Trinity. It's been such a privilege to be able to be on Tiger Network, calling their games, getting to know these athletes, and bringing you coverage at home.
Absolutely. The success is just everywhere you look. Every fall team making the postseason, every winter team making the postseason, the swimming and diving team putting remarkable results at the national championships, the highest ever finish on the men's side for a relay team. And the baseball team trying to match the success of the teams before them. They are on their way to doing just that in this one with a 7-0 lead. But that 7-0 lead stays right there as Wallace able to escape this inning without further damage. But the damage was done as Ezra Gore got a 3-run shot just underneath the scoreboard. Another run was added by Jack Vonderhaar with the RBI single, and the Tigers find themselves up 7 as we head to the 6th inning here on Tiger Network. Shavana was able to shut down Dallas after Trinity put 3 runs on the board for him. And now 7 runs on the board for him. So we'll see if he continues to attack the zone, which he has done with incredible command today. Just 1 walk and 7 strikeouts for Shavana. And as you said during a break here, Luke, really untouchable today.
Yeah, and through 5 full innings to this point, Shavana with 7 strikeouts. Outside of that, we haven't seen the ball come off the bats of these Crusader hitters very hard. The 2 hits that they do have, one of them being just a soft dribbler that stayed in the infield. As another K to add to his total right there as Lazara throws down to Metz at first base, and Shavana continues to cruise here.
That's 4 consecutive strikeouts for Shavana. And they've all come with the Crusaders chasing. They just have no answer for the sophomore right now. Right here, finally, they're able to put one in play, but it's right back to the pitcher, who bounces quickly off the mound and retires, Tally running down the line.
That replay that we saw a couple moments ago of that strikeout, we did see that big breaking ball, that one looking to be that tighter breaking ball, that slider that you talked about. For these Crusader hitters, such a difficult job with the repertoire that Shavana has. We've mentioned 4 pitches that he's thrown consecutively as he turns and begins his walk back to the dugout as soon as that one left the bat of Birmingham. Shavana dealing and incredibly confident in the defense that's playing out there behind him.
The swagger is oozing off the mound. Shavana just dealing here in San Antonio, like you said, knowing that was an out before it was recorded. So he is feeling good, and the Tigers feel the same way. That lead stays at 7-0 as we head to the bottom of the 6th. New pitcher on the mound for the Crusaders. It is Seth Medley, the sophomore from Denton, Texas. And he'll face the top of the Tiger lineup, Colt Harris. And Colt Harris, for the 2nd time today, will be hit. Looked like this one just maybe breezed off his jersey a little bit, but he'll get the trip to first. And Luke, you might remember from earlier this season that Colt Harris is a Baltimore Orioles fan, right? Remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe Colt would agree with the statement that The former Oriole great, the head coach Earl Weaver, would say that all you need to win baseball games is pitching, defense, and 3-run homers. Well, the Tigers have 2 3-run homers today, so I think Earl Weaver would be very happy. I certainly am, and I think Colt certainly is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on the nose with that one, Brian. The 3-run home runs, a couple of them have been there for the Tigers. So has the pitching, so has the defense. It's been an incredible showing. Certainly all 3 of those categories, those boxes, have been ticked off here today for Trinity.
Making Earl Weaver proud. That's what we all want to do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And for you honoring those Baltimore Orioles, I know that we have that hats fall counter on the broadcast. I think we need a reoccurring, consistent one carrying over game to game. That's Brian Yanselson Orioles mentions on the broadcast. I haven't done the greatest of jobs of counting consistently how many games that it's been mentioned in, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that it's been fewer than half of the games that we've called here at home, and I'd venture to say that it's closer to that full home game count that we've had.
I'm not really keeping track of it, but it's not my fault Colt Harris is doing so well and he happens to be an Orioles fan.
Absolutely. It's not your fault that it's relevant information.
I just inform, like you said, information. I'm just here
Absolutely
to bring the facts.
That's exactly what it is. And it certainly did play exactly into the theme of today's game, the 3-run home runs, a huge part of this one, so can't blame you for making that connection there.
And maybe we'll get another one right here as Rigor steps to the plate with a couple of runners on, nobody out, so maybe he'll do it again.
Be the hat trick, and for Ezra Gore, it would put him into the team lead in the home run category on the year. Just an incredible showing for the junior. He's really come alive for the Tigers this season. Saw him really take a larger role in last year's campaign, but he's really emerged as one of the biggest contributors as he sends that one to Tally out in right field, who makes a nice play over there in foul territory, catching that one underhand, making sure that he records the first out of the inning here for the Crusaders. And with that one, it does take away the opportunity from Gore for a third 3-run home run of the game. But with Metz back in the box, certainly equal opportunity for him to tally that third of the game. Steps into the box 0 for 2 on the day. Certainly looking to get things going again in the batter's box for himself.
And he does connect with this one. It's out towards left field. Then the center fielder takes over. Birmingham will get it. The runner Harris will come in from third to score the 8th run of the afternoon. So a productive out for MJ Metz. Just missing that one. The pitch high in the zone. Good pitch to hit. But the center fielder had the room out there and gets the second out of the inning.
And you mentioned that Harris was able to come home on that sacrifice fly. But on that previous batted ball down the right field line, a nice job from Harris to tag over there at second base to advance to third in the first place, ensuring that he ultimately came around on that MJ Metz sac fly. So a nice piece of base running from the second year, in addition to the way that he's swung the bat in the last couple of games out for Trinity.
Strike on the outside part of the plate to Wisniewski. Medley trying to work off of that last pitch. Going with the off-speed delivery, also outside, but Wisniewski not fooled by it, able to lay off and look at the ball to take the count 2-1. Medley retired a couple of outs and gave up just one hit while striking out 2 in that last game against Schreiner. Here he gives up an opposite field single for Wisniewski. Gets it in that left center field gap. The center fielder, Birmingham, able to cut things off. But the runner does move over to third. Lazera and Wisniewski at first. So runners at the corners with 2 outs for Brian Schaub at the plate.
That's a couple of consecutive at-bats from Wisniewski that we see some nice swings on pitches, offerings on that outside part of the plate. Some similar results from Wisniewski, sending them to that left side of the field, something that we've talked about so extensively this year, something that we saw out of Jack a ton last season, just his willingness to use the entire field. I think it's something that we haven't seen from him a ton this year, as that batting average is just over that 300 mark, but if he starts to swing the bat like he has in these past 2 at-bats, and I think that's certainly something that we're going to see continue to rise as we move deeper into this season.
And I think you're absolutely right about the going the other way. With 5 hits on the board for the Tigers, at least 3 of them that I can remember have been to the opposite field. The home run from Holloway, that last single from Wisniewski, and the RBI single from Vonderhaar last inning. So the Tigers not trying to do too much, just taking the pitch where it comes from, and often taking the pitch right at them. As earlier this inning we saw Harris hit for the second time, right here we see Schaub hit by the pitch for the second time this game. Can't feel great to have a ball right in between the numbers in the back, but it'll load the bases for Trinity, and Vonderhaar will have a chance to really break things open. Already an 8-0 lead for Trinity in the bottom of the 6th. And this ball will get away from the catcher Corbett, and Lazera will waltz on home. So this was a very competitive game through 4 innings, but in that bottom of the 4th, and ever since, things really starting to spiral for the Crusaders.
And I think it's reminiscent of something that you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Brian, that game against Schreiner, I believe you said, in which the Crusaders trailed 7-3 and then gave up, I believe you said, 16 runs in the 8th and 9th innings. So certainly a team that has the capacity to stay in close ball games, but on the flip side of things, the capacity to give up a lot of runs quickly.
It definitely has been the biggest concern for this Dallas team. They came into today with a team ERA of 10.29. That is 10 runs a game. Only 24 teams out of 385 across Division III have allowed more. And it'll continue here as we get past that 10-run mark. Vonderhaar with the line drive down to right field. He's going to head for 3, and he's going to get there. And the smile to the dugout on the way to third. A 2 RBI triple for Jack Vonderhaar. And Trinity out in front, 11-0.
Yeah, and when you look at Vonderhaar's recent games, you have to circle that last one at Concordia, the midweek Tuesday night game in which he went 2 for 3, and you have to wonder if that's going to be a catalyst for him as he's turned around and in this one been just as hot with the bat in his hands. Another 2 for 3 performance, and we're still only in the bottom of the 6th inning. So certainly a couple of Tiger bats that are starting to come alive in 2 super seniors that hit from the left side. Going to be incredibly valuable for this Trinity roster moving forward if those bats can continue and this full lineup can really achieve what we know that they're capable of.
And certainly scary to think that a team that already averages 8 runs a game can only get better. As you said, those guys playing some of their best baseball of the season. And if their bats join the likes of Ezra Gore and MJ Metz, who have been hot to start this season, Colt Harris as well, then this is a lineup that no opponent will want to face. Holloway going the other way again, but this one will be playable, but it'll be dropped, and it'll be in fair territory. Talley had a long way to go from right field. I thought the second baseman, Darnell, was going to take that one, but instead it falls in between the two of them, and Holloway ends up at second. Vonderhaar will score, and the Tigers now up 12-0.
Yeah, and already saw Talley make a really, really nice play out there in right field, a similar one, but it was a little bit more down the line and a little bit deeper, so certainly an easier play the first time out. That one, as you mentioned, a bit closer to the second baseman. Have to wonder what type of communication was going on out there.
The inning does come to an end with that ground ball to third. Haney retired by Martinez, but 5 runs come across to score for the Tigers, and they are up 12 over the Crusaders of Dallas, looking good in this opening game of the 3-game series. First pitch from Shavana, a strike delivered to Corbett. And with the Tigers now up 12, do have to make sure to note the conference run rules. So if a team is up 10 or more runs after 7 innings, the game ends at that point. So if Shavana is able to keep things right where they're at, that would be the end of game 1 of this doubleheader. Big breaking ball. Misses there for a ball. I know what you said, Luke, about the Oriole mention counter. So totally fair point. So if you want, I'll mention the Yankees as well, as Shavana got to talk to him this week, asked him what his favorite team is, and he said really growing up it was the Rangers, a little bit following the local team, but also, unfortunately, the New York Yankees. So one downside to his performance today is that fact.
I think if you're able to separate those two things, and I'm sure you're capable of doing so as a communications major and someone that is obviously clearly a Trinity baseball fan, you're going to prioritize the way that he's pitched on the mound today over his more than likely previous affiliation with the New York Yankees.
I'll look past it just because he's such a great guy, you know? Not even the performance on the mound. Such a great person that it is unfortunate that he's a Yankee fan, but he's clearly been able to keep that out of his personality since I wasn't able to tell.
Absolutely. I feel like it is typically pretty obvious. Yankee fans, their personalities are unique, to say the very least, and I think there's some pretty obvious tells that go along with it. But you have to wonder what his other affiliations are, especially considering the Duke-North Carolina game going on today. Wouldn't be too far of a stretch of the imagination to say that he might be a Duke Blue Devils basketball fan as well. We know there's a lot of bandwagons going around, and typically if you're following one of those teams, then you're following most of them.
Well, I don't know if you can call Yankee fans bandwagon fans, because that would assume that they've been good recently. So
It's a good point that you make.
Shavana, just ignoring our conversation, continues to mow through this Crusader lineup.
My only hope is that he will have the opportunity to join you on the broadcast in the second game of the doubleheader as he makes Coleman in the batter's box look a little silly with that breaking ball in on the hands. Had Coleman spinning on his feet right there for a second consecutive strikeouts and moving these Tigers just 1 out away from the victory here in game 1 of the doubleheader.
That is strikeout number 10 on the afternoon. And as we approach possibly the finale of this Game 1 doubleheader, we certainly do hope to have Shavana join us. We had Corey Cater and Sammy Conti last week and had a fantastic time talking to them, so we'll see if we can corral Shavana in for a little bit during Game 2, so stick around for that. Stick around for those videos we've been mentioning. This game going so quickly that we haven't been able to play it quite yet, but good thing we still have 2 more games, so we'll certainly get that in. But a lot to look forward to here on Tiger Network. Should be Sammy Conti on the mound for Game 2.
Hard to complain about a game moving quickly when we've had as much action in the second half of this one as we have had. Tigers doing a great job both in the batter's box and Shavana on the mound, dealing to this point and just a strike away from ending this one with a W.
This 6 2/3 that he's already gone marks the longest outing of the season for Shavana. He had gone 6 1/3 against Babson earlier this year out of the bullpen, but he's trying to complete a full 7 right here. Breaking ball just misses and laid off of by Darnell. So you can see why the Trinity coaches wanted Shavana out there to start this one. They have his full trust. Right here, batter gets away from him, draws a walk. So the game will continue as Darnell goes over to first. Shavana is approaching the 100 pitch mark, but hopefully he can finish this off. Always nice to be able to say you have a complete game shutout. But doubt the Crusaders will go down easily. Martinez will try to extend things and put something on the board. Shavana misses with that one high. And that tower ringing at 3, just as we talked about. Very fitting. And Lazera trying to end things perfectly with the tower. We're not Hollywood writers, but we try. Instead, a visit to the mound. Dave Smith coming out. What do you think is being said right here, Luke?
Well, certainly hard to imagine that the ball is going to be taken out of Shavana's hands right here. But it does seem in this at-bat, after a couple of pitches, that he has lost his release point just a little bit. But I think at this point in the game, having thrown 99 pitches, being just 1 out away from closing this one out, I think that the conversation is revolving around getting that out by any means necessary, just getting back to operating right around the strike zone, forcing Martinez to swing the bat right here and allowing the defense that has been so good today to operate behind you.
First pitch after the visit misses away, so Martinez up 2-0. Martinez 0 for 1 today, has a walk and a strikeout. Still just 2 hits on the board for the Crusaders and no runs as of yet. Darnell out there at second. And that'll be ball 4 to Martinez. So consecutive walks here in the top of the 7th after the first 2 were retired. Don't see a ton of action out there in the Tiger bullpen. Maybe someone just now getting up to stretch. And we have a pinch hitter here for Dallas. Zach Solomon coming in for the first baseman Kopp. Solomon going with the no batting gloves look. He looks at a ball from Shavana.
After that last at bat, 4 straight balls issued to Martinez. Have to imagine that for Shavana right here, the focus is just finding a way to get back into the strike zone. He does exactly that right there. I think that it's a perfect situation to just utilize that breaking ball with a pinch hitter who's stepping into the box for the first time here in this one. For Shavana, that breaking ball has been working all day long. Certainly going to be tough to put into play if you're Solomon.
Right there, a little more like it. 2 strikes in a row brings the count to 1-2. Solomon pinch hitting with runners at first and second. 2 outs in the top of the 7th. And he pops this one up. Harris underneath it. Deals with the sun and retires the final out of the inning and the final out of Game 1. As the Tigers rule the Crusaders, they'll call this one after 7 innings. They say sometimes you need 27 outs in a baseball game, but today the Tigers just need 21 outs. The Tigers get it done today, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part that they were able to do so, big reason why they were able to do so, was a couple of things that you mentioned in allusion to the Orioles. Was that defense, pitching, and 3-run home runs that were able to really get them across the finish line in this one. Couple off the bats of Holloway and Gore that were able to break it open in the 4th and 5th inning consecutively, but it was Shavana who went the distance in this one. Was incredibly impressive on the mound for the Tigers, needing only 7 innings to strike out double-digit Crusaders. He finishes the day with 10 strikeouts, only 2 hits, only 3 walks, so doing a really nice job of limiting the base runners and doing a really nice job of working quickly all afternoon longs. This one took just over 2 hours to complete.
Sometimes you look at the box score and you see double-digit runs and double-digit hits, and often that 18-19 mark for the hit column. But today, the Tigers very efficient with how they scored. Just 7 hits on the board, and they were able to get 12 runs out of that. And of course, coming because of those 3-run home runs that you reminded us with that recap, as Rigor had that 3-run home run, and that was his only hit of the game, but it was a big one. Christian Holloway got things going with his 3-run blast to right. He ended up with 4 runs batted in on the afternoon. And then MJ Metz added 1. And that was all the Tigers needed, because Joseph Shavana could have used just 1 with how he pitched. He was dominant and confident throughout this one, really from the start. Had a little bit of trouble there at the end, but that was the only sign once he had reached 100 pitches. Truly a phenomenal performance for the sophomore from Laredo, exactly what the Tigers have been looking for. So they'll try to keep things going with Game 2 of this doubleheader. It will be at 3:45 first pitch. So once again, 3:45 the first pitch. For Luke Terry and everyone in the control room, I'm Brian Yanselson, and we'll take a quick break before Game 2.